So, Jamila, how have you been handling this pandemic, and what have you been doing? Because I know you did a video, because I've been following you. If you don't follow Jamila T. Davis on Instagram, you're missing out. She is giving praise, she is giving inspiration, she's giving prayer, she's doing a lot. And you compared it to prison. You compared this to
Yes.
prison.
I think it's a lot like prison in many avenues. I did house arrest too, by the way, Karen, for about 2 years, and it's likened to the house arrest. Like you really, you don't control anything. You really get to see that your freedom is very limited. And so in many ways, this epidemic reminds me a lot of prison. And I guess now I took on my prison survival skills and kind of adapted it to what we got going on out here right now.
What does that look like? Break down some of your survival skills that maybe some of us who are going stir crazy right now could learn from.
Well, first thing I want to say is settle in, right? A lot of us are anxious for, okay, it's got to get over. It's got to get over, right? And if you feel like that, you're going to probably be very anxious right now because we don't know when this is going to be over, right? So when you settle in, what that does is it helps you to quiet your spirit and figure out what can you do to make the best out of time. And truth is, Karen, a lot of us been running around doing all kind of things, and we've neglected some things, including family, right? Spirituality, self-care, and just a lot of different personal projects that we're supposed to be doing. And what prison allowed me to do is shift my mindset and start working on what I could control instead of trying to control what I can't work on. Does that make sense?
Oh, that's powerful. That's powerful. Settling in. We've talked before in these airways when you got your sentence, and when someone tells you you're going to look at 12 years, that literally feels like a lifetime of your life, and I don't even know how to wrap my mind around what 12 years is. So, what mental exercise or spiritual exercise did allowed you to settle into that time that you had to do?
I had to surrender to my higher power. I had to realize Jamila and her own strength can do nothing. And I feel like that's what obstacles do. Obstacles occur to awaken us to our purpose and alignment, right? A lot of times when we move, we think that we're moving because we're doing what we're doing and we're not giving reference to our higher power. So I had to surrender to him. And when I surrendered to him, it almost felt relaxing, to give the burden to someone else instead of that you holding on to that thing that you really can't control or bear, right? And then in that surrendering process, I had to look for the good that could come out of this bad situation. So I realized in every single adversity, there is an equal opportunity for reward, but it's our job to just go through, right? So I realized that if I could make the best out of this time, do what I could do, then there would be a reward at the end of the tunnel. And I actually happened to walk into some of my reward. I feel like I'm still in some of my reward season. So I just speak to somebody out there that's going through and they don't understand what's happening. Just know that this is the thing that's sharpening you. This is the thing that's getting you out of your comfort zone that's going to propel you to excellence.
Wow. 866-801-8255. So Jamila T. Davis is an activist. We've had several folk on the show this week talking about the way in which prisoners are being treated. I know New Jersey just let out about 1,000 people today, and they're going to be letting out more people who are nonviolent, convicted people who've been convicted of a crime, but nonviolently. They're letting folks out because it is a breeding ground for COVID-19. What are you seeing in the position that you're in? What are you seeing?
Well, I know prison is really, you're on top of each other, right? So there's no such thing as called social distance in prison. It doesn't exist, right? So even to cells, there's two people in a cell. You don't get one man in a cell unless you're in solitary confinement, and there's not that many spaces there. So people are piled up on top of each other, so there's no way to stop the spreading of a virus. And that's just real. So the only solution to that is to let some folks go. And it seems as though in certain places, like in the feds right now, they're making ways to let people go because there's no way to do it. You're on top of each other, like literally.
So in terms of treatment, and they're not really reporting all of the COVID-19 cases in prisons. I was watching Rachel Maddow last night. They're not even reporting all of the COVID-19 cases in nursing homes, and there are a lot. and, you know, the underreporting in the community. They're not testing everybody. You know, they don't have tests for everybody. And I would imagine that prisoners probably would be the last place that, you know, resource-wise, that they would think value those lives to say, we're going to test everybody.
That is correct.
What are you hearing about that?
So basically, we are looked at as numbers. So for the last 9 years that I did in prison, I was 5'9", inmate Davis, right?
Wow.
So inmate Davis is less than human, right? Inmate Davis only deserves a little bit, like people treat their dogs actually better than they treat prisoners, you know? So comparing it to your dog is really not a good thing to compare it to. But we're looked at as less than humans. And in this epidemic where everyone is taking care of themselves, they're definitely not thinking about prisoners. It's just not of importance. So we're grateful for those like yourself that are lending a platform to the situation and those shedding light on the epidemic so that people behind bars that are voiceless can actually get some help.
866-801-8255. Will you ever forget that number, Jamila? Because you said it. So did you have to repeat that number every day?
Well, yes. You had to put it on your mail. You know, anytime you're signing for a package, and you needed to know it. When you did a count and they asked you to recite your number, if you didn't know your number, you could go to the hole. So that was who you was. You was known by your number. And in a lot of ways, your dignity is taken away from you because they allow you to know. And they repeatedly, constantly remind you that you are inmate 592-53053. So I guess I got to get that number out my head, but it's still going to take a little bit of time to do that.
Do you think this pandemic has shed light on not just the disparity, because we already know that the criminal justice system is not just, but do you think there are going to be some changes that are coming out of this? I saw Topeka K. Sam, she went in because there are women in prison who were pregnant. She fought really hard to make sure that they wouldn't be handcuffed to a bed giving birth. That was one of the victories that she secured. But now it's like, why are you keeping a pregnant woman, a nonviolent prisoner, in jail who's pregnant? You know, so these are things like, do you think there's going to be a wholesale change?
Yes, I think so. But think about it. The universe has done a reset, right? So what man wouldn't do, God is now doing, right? There's never been in the history, I did a decade behind bars. There's never been a time in history where inmates were let go early for any kind of anything except a new law. So for the things to be happening now as they're happening, and think about the people that are being affected, right? This pandemic there's no color, you know, there's no race that's exempt, you know, everyone is being hit. And if you see, it's almost leveling out the scale. So it's like there's some magic wand behind the scenes doing some stuff. Now, it's hurting some folks, and it doesn't feel good. But I feel like in the end, when it's all said and done, we're going to see a lot of the effects of the magic wand and just things changing. And I call it a new order. I feel like there's a new rise to a new regime of people and things coming into existence.